Who's inventing the tools for the 21st century kitchen? On today's menu, cooking moves out of the kitchen and into the lab as scientists develop the tools of the culinary future.
So now we have to get the smoker going.
A rare look inside the private kitchen of super genius Nathan Myhrvold.
It's not so much that it's about science as it's about breaking any rule that exists.
Meet the creator of the science of deliciousness.
I don't understand why people are not chemists. All of them.
In Kentucky, reinventing tobacco's past for a sustainable future.
It's this idea of marrying this wisdom of the past with appropriate technology from the present.
At the forefront of new technology, gadget guru Philip Preston.
I've had the opportunity to work with really the best chefs in the United States today, and I love the challenge.
The idea here was to have the ultimate kitchen and food laboratory. This is the central range. We've got induction ranges, a grill, we have a plancha and a couple of gas stoves, 2 computer-controlled combi ovens, broiler, espresso machines, water jets, the smoker. Some of these things are really pretty impractical unless you're a nutcase like me, but this is a very cool thing. It's a retarder proofer. My whole life I've been interested in science. I was involved in astrophysics and cosmology, but what is the origin of space and time itself? This is a little bit more basic. But on the other hand, you get to eat this.
As the former chief technology officer of Microsoft, Nathan Myhrvold may never have met a science that he didn't like. He's a physicist, a paleontologist, a computer scientist, a cosmologist, an award-winning photographer, and a gourmet cook. And yes, the last one does count as science, especially when it comes to Myhrvold. Besides running Intellectual Ventures, a company devoted entirely to the creation of new inventions, he's also working on a cookbook that includes a section on sous vide, a method of cooking in vacuum-sealed bags for long periods at low temperatures.
So we'll put those in.
At home in Seattle, he experiments with a kitchen full of gizmos that puts most restaurant kitchens to shame.
So now we're going to play with liquid nitrogen.
This is serious. My name is Cynthia Nims. I'm a food writer based in Seattle, Washington.
It's dangerous, and some people get all freaked out about the danger, but it's actually no more dangerous than hot oil.
Nathan is an inventor in many respects, certainly, and currently he's known in this cadre of the food world that it is definitely the food meets technology arena.
So this is just vanilla-flavored whipped cream.
Sure.
There's a whole movement of chefs that are reinventing the way cuisine is done.
It makes a sizzling sound just like frying.
Yeah. And it's not so much that it's about science as it's about breaking any rule that exists and using any technique that you can to do something really different and interesting. I'm going to make a tomato consommé.
Oh, a consommé.
Yes, we're going to use a
Wonderful.
centrifuge. It's going to subject these poor little tomatoes, after we juice them, to forces about 40,000 times that of normal gravity.
So we're drawing off all the solids, is that what
Yep.
we're doing?
Exactly. So now we have to take the juice, and we have to load the juice into the centrifuge rotor. You know when your washer dryer is unbalanced, it goes ka-wumpa, wumpa, wumpa?
I do know that.
We don't want that to happen here. So what we have to do is load the liquid in pairs. Okay, now we go to the centrifuge. And now we say start. This will take an hour at very, very high speed, 13,000 RPM. So this is a piece of beautiful king salmon.
This is going to be sous vide, is that what it is?
Yes, I got into sous vide about 4 years ago. I've read every book and every technical paper there is on sous vide. I've also done a tremendous number of experiments, cooking experiments of my own. As a result, I've kind of become a sous vide guy. So now let's go to the vacuum packer. So here the air is being sucked out. Some of this new food has elicited the same kinds of cries of horror that the French Impressionists elicited when they were first shown. So this is what we'll be using to cook sous vide. This is a water bath. It's very hard for us to believe now because you look at Cézanne and Gauguin and those are almost holy. But they were considered ugly at the time. It's at 45 centigrade. which is 113 Fahrenheit. But over time, that really does move the way people think about food. We're expanding the realm of what we like, of what we can experience. And I think that's a great thing. This lets me actually photograph what happens inside. So the idea about sous vide is being able to do two things. One is precisely control the temperatures with which you cook. And sous vide lets you do that temperature control exquisitely, perfectly well. So in a sense, this is super high-tech poaching. In addition to maintaining the temperature, there's a pump in them, which circulates the water so that you don't get any dead spots, ensures that it cooks evenly. So we'll see what happened to our tomato juice. And
Look at that.
there we go. Sometimes understanding the science actually doesn't help you very much. Sometimes understanding the science only lets you rediscover what chefs had already figured out. But sometimes you can do something very different. You might think, oh, this is going to be disturbed. 40,000 times gravity, it really doesn't want to move.
Okay.
So you have to use a spoon to dig it out afterwards.
That is fascinating.
It really is compacted. When you can use a piece of fancy high-tech equipment to achieve an effect you couldn't otherwise achieve, that's pretty interesting.
It really smells great. But you wouldn't look at that and know there was anything tomato about it. That's where the fun comes in. Wow, that is amazing. Very summery, lots of flavor. Delicate sweetness with a fun little dose of technology.
I think going forward, people will be experiencing different kinds of dishes prepared in different sorts of ways because a few nutcases at the fringe decide, hey, let's check out and see what works.
Oh, wow. That texture. You know, I've eaten a lot of salmon in my life, but I don't think I've tasted anything quite like this. That is delicious.
To a certain extent, you could say that all these gadgets are torturing the food and doing unnatural things to them. But in fact, the result is to try to intensify what's already there.
So you clearly have devoted a lot of time and energy into this world of food. What really drives you in all of that?
First of all, I love to eat. And that sounds silly, but it's really true. I love to eat, I love food. Unlike many things, once you're done with cooking, you can actually share it very easily with other people. What I like to do is push the boundaries of knowledge forward.
Molecular gastronomy is one of the hottest trends in cuisine around the world today.
This is molecular gastronomy. And what chefs do is not molecular gastronomy, it's molecular cooking. Stuff like this. I define molecular gastronomy, I know what it is. Whip.
Hervé Thies is a molecular gastronomist. In fact, he coined the term molecular gastronomy. Why is molecular gastronomy important?
Science produces knowledge. And knowledge is what makes us different from animals. So science is important because we are not animals.
My name is Louisa Chu, and I'm a chef and a food writer.
Back in 1988, French chemist Hervé Thies coined the phrase molecular gastronomy, founding a culinary field devoted to the science of deliciousness. His research has led to methods allowing modern chefs to foam, gel, and liquefy food into new and more flavorful creations. Thies also has a bit of an obsession with the chemistry behind the history of cooking.
Oh, there it is.
By lab testing techniques from old cookbooks, 19th century cooking traditions, and even old wives' tales, Thies sets out to explain the science behind the art of cooking.
Salut, chef.
Hervé works a lot with chefs. Though what they do is different, it's related. Chefs like Christelle Legendre use the knowledge of the science of molecular gastronomy that Hervé Thies explores and applies them in her kitchen to create new dishes. These sablés are a very traditional French cookie, and the dish that Christelle is assembling right now is something that actually started in Hervé's lab.
So we make a dough, flour and water.
So what this experiment is actually going to show is how using torrefied or roasted flour produces a more perfect sablé.
This yellow part is called gluten, the white powder is called starch.
This is kind of a simple way to see the two components that flour is made of. In a sablé, we don't want the gluten active. We don't want all of the proteins coagulating it into a solid, crispy piece. What we want in a sablé is something that's going to hold together, but in the mouth fall apart and crumble.
I'm not even sure that I love cooking. I'm not even sure that I love eating. I don't understand why people are not chemists. All of them. The other solution to get a better sablé, you just torrefy it.
Now Hervé is heating just flour alone without any fat, which is torrefying it, browning it.
Roasted.
It roasts it to a point where it destroys the gluten.
I know that chef can do something with that. And they do. Let's go.
All right, great. I'd love to see it. So this is a finished product, just a very golden version of a classic French sablé. And the aroma, again, you smell the very toasty aroma in there. Very compact, but it just falls apart. And you get that toasty butteriness in the cookie. What this next experiment is going to show is testing the culinary theory behind when you take a sauce and you monte au beurre, which means you mount it with butter and you just shake the pan to emulsify the butter into the sauce, because then that way it'll taste more of the wine rather than tasting the butter. What Hervé is doing is he's mimicking the components of a wine sauce using water, fat, salt, and gelatin.
Okay, and now we just whip. Okay, stop. If you have a sauce like this, whip,
Right.
you perceive a lot of flavor from the batter, not from the wine.
Because in the whisk sauce, you'll get more contact of the fat droplets on your tongue, on your palate. You'll taste more of the butter than you will actually the wine.
As a cook, I would not be proud to serve it. Okay, and now we just shake. I'm not sure that I'm a very good shaker, but you see how different this is?
What we're looking at on the monitor is what a wine sauce would look like if we were to simply shake the pan to incorporate the butter. We can see the size of the fat droplets. Taste more of the wine in the wine sauce, which is what you want more rather than tasting the butter. I was asking Christelle what was the most important thing that Hervé has explained to her about cooking. And she was saying that molecular gastronomy is really important in just about every aspect of cuisine. It's really opened her spirit. It's really helped her develop her imagination. There are kitchens like this now all over the world where chefs are seeking the knowledge that will perfect their dishes.
Cooking is not technique, is not art, it's primarily love. I have in front of mine 70 million French people. I want to change their way of cooking.
A lot of people think that organic means rejecting a lot of the things that we've developed in our agricultural evolution, and that's really not true. I think one of the central focuses of organic farming is using the appropriate technology from the present with the wisdom of the past. And this is an example of one of the techniques that the students in the apprenticeship program learn to control insects on an organic farm. My name is Mark Williams. I'm an associate professor at the University of Kentucky in the Department of Horticulture.
Sometimes the best inventing is reinventing. At South Farms in Lexington, Kentucky, Associate Professor Mark Williams takes equipment originally used for harvesting tobacco and transforms it into tools for sustainable farming. Once used to cultivate a potentially dangerous, addictive crop, his tractors find new life, retrofitted for the best in organic produce. Williams is a bit of a reinvention himself. Disillusioned by years as a biotech engineer doing high-tech gene research, he left it all behind to help the University of Kentucky develop technology for a healthier planet.
In the tobacco growing area of our nation, there's been a big change and a big shift in agriculture where people are moving away from a crop that really dominated. So people are being very open-minded to alternatives to tobacco.
We try to eat about 50% of them.
Yeah.
We're trying to invent new ways of using existing technology focused on organic and sustainable horticulture crop production. And specifically, we've tried to look at tractors that were used widely in tobacco. It's this idea of marrying this wisdom of the past with appropriate technology from the present. This is a Alice Chalmers G tractor. It was built in 1949. The cultivating tools that were originally on it did a very deep cultivation. You ended up negatively impacting the structure of your soil and then also bringing up weed seeds, so you had to cultivate over and over again to control the weeds. So what we've done is we've used this cultivator called a rolling basket. These are designed to do very shallow cultivation. And this is a 1964 Farmall 140. It's a tractor that was really common in Kentucky tobacco culture. What we have done is we've adapted some cultivating tools and we've ganged them together on this toolbar that we've built ourselves. Right now we're harvesting peppers. We have close to a dozen different varieties. There's anchos, pasilla, we've got serranos, jalapenos. I think there's this alarming agricultural illiteracy in our country where people really are disconnected with their food supply.
Hey Mark, what's for lunch?
We all get together each week where one of the apprentices, one of my staff, or myself designs a meal mainly around all the food that we're harvesting that week. And then we all work together to prepare the meal. You know, the plate, to me, is such an important place to put in action your belief system. Oh, this is great. I believe in the connection between taking care of my own body and taking care of the planet. Well, that's an opportunity each day for all of us to put those beliefs into action.
Thanks a lot, Bob.
Yeah,
Compliments to the chef.
We actually refer to these as shake and break.
Okay.
In taking on any design, I have to be intrigued with it. It's really very simple. Like the anti-griddle, the sous vide circulator, the smoking gun. This is a butane torch. I'm working on designing these products for chefs because it's a passion of mine to explore the culinary arts. Hi, Louisa. Welcome to PolyScience. I'm Philip Preston, president of PolyScience.
At PolyScience, inventor Philip Preston dreams up all kinds of high-tech gadgetry. But it's his passion for futuristic kitchen gear that has captured the attention of America's top chefs, like Grant Achatz and Chicago's Alinea. With a wide array of cutting-edge products, Preston is helping to transform the kitchen for the 21st century. Even at home, you'll find Preston testing and fine-tuning prototypes of the culinary future.
The Garage Mahal.
Oh my God, I can see why.
This is the first time in my life I've had a garage that was even close to the size that it should be. But I have a lot more use for a garage, I think, than most people. Well, this is where I test a lot of the products that might become a PolyScience culinary product.
Okay.
I wanted to make you a little dish, and I'm going to use the anti-griddle.
Anti-griddle being one of your first important culinary products that you invented.
The anti-griddle will very rapidly freeze things to a solid or partially solid state. There we go. The anti-griddle's running.
Okay.
Take a nice dollop of creme anglaise. I've got this caramel that I made.
If you were to put this on a tray and put it into the freezer,
It'll take a really long time in the freezer, and it'll also be a very uniform kind of a chilling. And with this, we're really just flash chilling with an extremely low temperature, minus 30.
that's beautiful. The caramel's still nice and chewy, and the creme anglaise is still kind of soft on the inside, but really frozen on the bottom. That's really fun for the kids.
Well, this is something that I've actually been working on for quite some time now. As yet, a failed experiment. Wow. Oh, and there's some snow, by the way. It's trying to take something that happens so easily in nature, and you realize just how hard it is to duplicate. My wife and I are probably the only people that have had a really nice bowl of strawberry snow. The problem I've had so far is I just can't grow enough quantity of snow. One of these days we'll get it.
Oh.
Your soup's ready. This is some mushroom soup. Every spring we go out hunting mushrooms. My next step, I want to infuse some smoke flavor into that mushroom soup.
Oh, all right.
The smoking gun is a way to provide a subtle smoke flavor to a dish that might be totally impractical to put on a grill. I think
What
for
are you
this,
using?
I want to use peach wood.
All right.
This is a fun trick, adding a smoke flavor to soup.
Smoke and soup usually don't go together unless there's
You
been an
wouldn't think.
accident.
Exactly.
You know? So you've got the peach wood chips in the pipe bowl.
Yeah. I'm really getting a serious infusion of that smoke to a lot of the soup. There we go.
So
A good
now-
flask of soup.
Right. One of the concerns, I think, with some people seeing products like a flask, a laboratory flask, and a smoking gun is that they think they're going to taste something really weird.
Oh, gosh, no, not at all.
And the mushroom soup is beautiful and rich.
One of the things that has led me to inventing is I love the challenge. It's just a curiosity. It's the fun of solving the problem, and I think an eternal optimism. I still rely very heavily on all of the traditional cooking techniques, and really these are just additional arrows in my quiver. Really, I don't look at any of these pieces of equipment as radically new concepts, but rather new ways to create some interesting drama in the kitchen, just at the push of a button.